I think it gives us a couple of seconds of delay. So if you're viewing us, let us know that you can see us. But hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jennifer. I assume you know who I am since we're on my channel. But I'm here today with Tori from Hufflepuff Discovery. Her channel and her announcement video for Ancientsathon should be linked down below. But Ancientsathon is our readathon that's going on this month, throughout the month of June, where we are trying to read classics written before 1700.
Yeah,
so we thought
excited. We are finally getting started. I've been waiting so long to do this, so this is going to be so good.
We thought today we'd talk a little bit about what we've chosen for our TBRs. I know we both did kind of options for our TBRs, but now we're going to say concretely what we're doing. Oh, good. I'm glad y'all can see us. Well, Tori, do you want to get us started? You want to go over the prompts?
I will. Okay, so for any of you who maybe weren't there, haven't seen the announcements, and you're just kind of seeing this and jumping in, we have 5 prompts total. So the first one, I just kind of made sure I had my list on my notes so I don't forget any of them. So we have a nonfiction read, so anything from pre-1700 that is nonfiction, so that could be philosophy, that could be a history, whatever you would like to read. We have a female, one written by a female author, which may be a little tricky, but hopefully people can find that. We have one that is myth or legend based. So this can be anything. It can be a play. It could be like literal myths and legends, whatever you would like. And then we have number 4 is a play, which there's so many plays during this time period. So lots of options there. And then the 5th and final prompt is a book, a piece of literature referenced in a popular work from later on. So that could be, if you read a lot of Victorian literature, there's a lot of references to this type of literature in that, or even just a recent, either a retelling or just something that you've read that references a piece of literature from this time period that you'd like to read. And then our 6th prompt, sort of, is our group read, and that is Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. Here's my new copy. I don't know which side to hold on. Yes, there we go. So that is our group read that we will discuss in a live show at the end of the month. So be sure to look for that. That will be on my channel by then.
Pilgrim's Progress seems pretty short, but I think it's going to be a pretty intense read. I think it's going to require a lot more of me than what I'm thinking. I have started it. Well, I've started the introduction. So,
you know, progress. I know. I actually read the first the author's apology for his book just actually like 10 minutes before I got on. And yeah, it's interesting. I definitely feel like it's one that, because it's so there's so many analogies and symbolism in it, that it does take a lot of thinking. And I realized very quickly that even though I'm reading like 11 pages a day to kind of spread it out throughout the month, it's going to take a lot of time to think. So I'm going to have to plan that a little bit better, because yeah, already starting it, I just feel like it's going to take a lot of thought that I want to put into it. So that should be good.
Have you read it before, The Pilgrim's Progress?
I have not. I haven't even read parts of this one, so I was really excited. Especially, I mean, I love Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and that's kind of plays a pretty big role, not only like for the characters, but also like in Louisa May Alcott's writing of Little Women. So I feel like it will be kind of fun to connect it back to that, and I'm looking forward to that.
This is a good one then for a book that was referenced in something else, if you're looking to double up on challenges, which very well may have to be the case for me, but my TBR is like 60 books long.
Oh gosh. Never ending. It never ends.
No, it doesn't. So what have you picked? What did you pick for something that was referenced in another book?
Yeah, so I mean, I can always fall back on Pilgrim's Progress, but I decided to go with, I just have my complete works of Shakespeare here, but I'm going to be reading Coriolanus.
Oh,
Yes, because it's referenced in Hunger Games. So I thought that would be kind of interesting reading that. So that's my pick for that.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good choice. I've never read Coriolanus.
Okay.
Everybody, let us know what you're reading for this prompt down below. But I've heard some really interesting things about Coriolanus. I think some people really love it, and some people really hate it. So, but it's Roman, isn't it? It's one of his Roman
Yeah,
set plays.
I think so. One of his Roman like tragic stories. So we'll see how it goes.
At least it should be pretty gruesome.
Yeah. Pretty dramatic, which will be really nice. Always really nice to have some drama in the reading. So
Yes. I guess I'm going to try to be easy on myself and do something I'm already reading. For this prompt, I'm going to be reading Dante because Dante's referenced in a million things. But specifically, I've been reading a lot of Lord Byron, and Lord Byron loves him some Dante. And I am so far behind on this. This is a readathon I'm also hosting, and I'm supposed to be done with Purgatory, the second book. I was supposed to finish that by the end of May, and I am one chapter in, one canto in. So I've got to read both Purgatory and Paradiso. I have to read both of those this month, but I thought I would try to give myself something easy and achievable that I know I will get to.
yes, that's a good idea. And perfect for working with Lord Byron for you to add
Hmm.
romantics as well.
That's right. Bobby Sue said, I heard Coriolanus doesn't end very well.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So we'll see how it goes. I am in love with tragic endings though, so it might work very well for me. I'm a tragedy lover, so hopefully it will work for me, but we'll see.
I agree. And I like the tragedies so much more than the comedies.
Mhm.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah. I feel like the comedies are super fun, but I just love my like drama and over the top emotions and the passionate, soliloquies and everything. That's just my jam. So see how it goes.
Oh, Zoe, you picked a great one. I love Inferno. You all know this, but I hope you like it. Some people don't. It's nice to acknowledge that for some people, poetry really doesn't work, and his poetry doesn't work. But for me, it really does. So I highly recommend it, and I'm glad you're going to try it, Zoe. I hope you love it. That's also very gruesome,
Yes,
very
that
gory.
very much so. Absolutely. Okay, I guess for the next prompt, what are you going to read for a nonfiction work?
Here's here's my big stack. I am like in the mood for nonfiction, I think, and so I have three books for this, but two of them are very short. Two of them are very short, and I've started one. So the one that I have started is something I found at my used bookstore the other day, and that is Michelangelo's notebooks. And so this includes all of his letters and a lot of his poetry, actually. But for the most part, it's like narrating his life through the letters that he had saved, and he's talking about how he paid for marble and how he sculpted certain things. So this shall be really, really interesting. It's already interesting so far. I'm only one chapter in, but then I'm also going to read On Painting by Leon Battista Alberti. This is from the 1400s, and it's very, very short, but I think it's mostly an instruction manual on how to paint and how to paint well. Since this is kind of the early Renaissance and things are changing. So, this is kind of my bread and butter. It might be kind of boring. I'm hoping it won't be, but I expect it should be a little bit more dry than some of these others. And then, last but not least, I'll be reading The Secret History by Procovius. So this is from the 500s, and apparently it's very juicy. A lot of people have told me now that this is very gossipy. So I think I'll really, really like that. But I do love a gossipy history from the ancient world.
Absolutely. Love that. I know that one's remember you talking about that one on your channel, and I thought it was sounded so interesting. So I'll have to hopefully one day pick it up. There's so many I want to pick up, so we'll see. But um, the one I'm going with is actually History of the Kings of Britain, a very well-known classic by Geoffrey of Monmouth, and I'm really excited for this one. I'm just a huge King Arthur fan, so I'm excited to get into this. I hope I end up enjoying it. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't read a lot of, honestly, very much nonfiction from this time period. I've read a lot of like philosophical type nonfiction, but not a lot of like histories. So this is kind of going to be my introduction into that type of literature. So we'll see how it goes. And this one's not super long, so I'm actually hoping to get to, I don't have it with me, but Utopia by Sir Thomas More as well, if I can. So those
I
are
also picked that up recently used because I knew you were reading it. And I said, we're going to have to read this and then talk about it because I've heard
absolutely.
it's really crazy.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. And yeah, I've just really, even though like, being a Richard III fan, I don't, we have that thing with Sir Thomas More, but I do find his writing really, I've read a couple of his letters and I really like them. And I think he's just an interesting figure too. So yeah, very curious about that one.
Jessica has a good question here. She's trying to find a short read. So, suggestions for someone who's not so well read in ancient literature. And off the top of my head, I think Tori, you would recommend this too. I would suggest Medea, which is rather short for a play, but since it is a play, you don't have to get lost in a lot of description or a lot of philosophy, which can be present in a lot of ancient literature. And Medea is just a crazy story. If you have never read it before, you will be floored by it. It's really crazy. And I know Tori, this is like one of your favorites of all time.
Yeah, I was gonna say my gut reaction is Medea. I just feel like it's super easy to get into. It's pretty dramatic. I think it works really interestingly with a lot of like more current topics. I don't know, like different ideas about women and things like that. And I think it just adds an interesting layer of discussion for that type of a conversation. Um, since you already recommended it, I'm trying to think of like a different one. Another one I guess I would say is, if you haven't read it, is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I feel like if you want to go for medieval work, I feel like that's very short and easy to get into as well. And there's several fun translations. I think J.R.R. Tolkien has a translation of it that's really good. So I would say Medea and Sir Gawain are pretty good.
And then you can go watch the new movie with Dev Patel because I cannot wait for that. I love Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. That's a really great one as well. Yeah, Medea is really good. Oh, you've read Pilgrim's Progress 5 times.
Oh.
That's crazy. Well, speaking of Bunyan's life, the introduction has really floored me. I did not know that he went through all of that. So he went through a lot of strange religious persecution, like religious persecution that I think is hard to understand in the modern day because we don't really understand the intricacies of why Protestants were going against other Protestants. It's a really complicated thing, but you're right. I imagine knowing his life will make it a deeper experience. So I can't believe you've read that 5 times.
Seriously, I was gonna say too, I didn't read my introduction yet because I like to wait till the end sometimes just in case it has spoilers or something. But I reading in like the notes section in the footnotes, it had a mention about the first time he was in jail, and that immediately was like, I need to learn about John Bunyan. So that's a really good comment. I'll have to see if I can find some nonfiction even about him at some point.
This sounds really interesting. I have heard of Ibn Fadlan before, if I'm saying that correctly. And I am really interested I'm really interested to hear what you think about this. Please keep us updated on this.
I'd like to hear too. I'm pretty like low level on the Vikings, so I'm just starting Norse mythology. We'll talk about that later, but anyway, but I'm
Spoiler.
really curious to get more into it, so definitely.
I hope you enjoy them. Those are two really good ones. At first, I read this, and when you said Simon Armitage, I thought you said Richard Armitage. I got really excited for a second, thinking that Richard Armitage was narrating an audiobook or something. But Sir Gawain is really, really good. It's really beautiful. There's a whole bunch of different translations out there, and all of them are really, really beautiful.
So good, and there's so much good symbolism in it that's interesting to pick apart too. Wow, quick start.
Yes.
Much better start than I am at, so good job.
Good luck to you on Ovid's Metamorphosis. It's so good. It can be, I mean, it's a very rewarding read. So this is a really good month for it. I would definitely pace it out over the month. That's the way I would have to do it. It is quite large.
Yeah, it is big and pretty. I mean, there's a lot going on in it, so you kind of have to take it slow too. The
Mm.
Aeneid is also so good. I think that's one of my favorite of the ancient worlds too. I really like that one.
Yeah, the Aeneid and the Metamorphoses are my two favorites.
Mm.
My two favorite works of poetry from the ancient world. So, hello, David. It really is. I cannot wait to see how they do it for a film. It seems like a very odd thing to make into a film,
I agree. When I
but
heard that, I was very thrown off, but we'll see.
I also love the George X Maria.
I don't even know
They're
what it is.
yeah, they're a lesser known collection of his poetry that is also really quite beautiful, but it's not on the level of the Aeneid, I would say.
Hmm.
Few things are
Yeah, for sure.
when you're trying to do epic poetry versus smaller poetry. I
Hmm.
think it can be hard to compare.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, epic poetry, it's just this whole story. There's so much to work with, so it's hard to beat out. But okay, what's the next prompt we wanted to do?
You want to do myths,
Yeah,
myth based?
sounds good since I kind of already brought up what mine is. So I'm doing Norse mythology by Neil Gaiman just because I've always wanted to learn more about Norse myths and just learn about the Vikings. And then, you just spur that on for me too. So I decided, you know what, I need to start with the basics. And I've heard Neil Gaiman does a great job. So I actually started listening. I'm listening to the audiobook for it. And I already started that today, and I'm really liking it so far.
Oh,
So,
wow.
mm,
I bet that is really, really special to be an audiobook
yeah,
because myths like that you always imagine being told orally. So I think that they work really well in an audiobook format.
absolutely. And actually, Neil Gaiman is the one doing it. So
Oh,
it's kind of
wow.
fun to just hear his voice because he clearly is so passionate about them. And so he really adds a lot of his own passion for them into his voice. And it's just, yeah, so far so good. So,
I could I was thinking about rereading something like Norse mythology. I really wanted to go Viking based, but I also wanted to read something that I hadn't read before. And my goal with this was to kind of shop my shelves and not buy anything new. And so I'm going to be reading Ovid's Fasti, which is all about, I think, the Roman calendar days and why you celebrated certain feast days for certain gods at certain times of the year and on certain days of the week, which is really fascinating. But I know Ovid was really into Roman and Greek mythology from the Metamorphoses. So I'm interested to see how this is. I don't think I've ever read this before. There are certain things of Ovid's I know I read in part, but I'm really excited about this, though it is rather thick. So I'm excited to start this one. I think this might be my first read.
Okay, good pick. I love that. Yeah, I haven't read any of that one either. I've read some of Ovid's poems and then Metamorphoses. I've read chunks of. I actually haven't read Metamorphoses all the way through, but I've read portions of it. So I'm pretty not well versed in Ovid, but sounds really interesting.
Okay, here's Lori's TBR. Aesop's Fables. That's really interesting.
Oh,
History of the Kings of Britain. She's going with you, Tori.
love that.
And the Lays of Marie de France.
Yep, that will be on mine too. Romeo and Juliet. That's so good.
One of
Classic.
my all-time faves, the Saga of Ragnar Lothbrok.
Oh yes.
I love that. Love that so much, Lori. You're in for a treat. This is a great TBR.
Absolutely.
I love Romeo and Juliet. I feel like Romeo and Juliet gets a bad rap because people had to read it in high school and they had probably a terrible teacher. But Romeo and Juliet is truly one of his masterpieces to me. It's probably my second favorite play.
Yeah, that's one I definitely, the more I think about it and the more I learn about it and watch like people discuss it, the more I find myself loving it as well. At first, I mean, I read it in ninth grade. And I think part of what turns people off is I think most people kind of know the story, at least a little bit. And it has kind of that insta love aspect that turns people off, especially nowadays. But yeah, like just the more you dig into it and understand what Shakespeare was trying to do with the story and with the characters and their relationship and what about the insta love makes it not like other insta love. I think it is a really, really, really good one.
And Juliet is such a stellar character. She truly has some of the greatest lines.
Absolutely.
I imagine the movie will be about as hit or miss as any other Arthurian movie. Well, then it will be a hit for me, David, because even bad Arthurian movies, I really, really enjoy. So we should talk about that. We should all talk about our favorite Arthurian movies. But my favorite is one people think is terrible, and it's the one with Clive Owen from 2004. And I love that movie. I treasure it. So I'm excited about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Oh.
That is really good news. I love Richard Armitage so much.
I love that.
Yes, it does remind you of the witch. Oh, I'm really excited now. This has turned into a Sir Gawain and the Green Knight fan. We're just fangirling over this, but it really does look stunning. And I hope that a whole bunch of people maybe read it for the readathon. Now I kind of want to reread it now that we're talking about it.
I think David Wiley is actually hosting a read along of it this month. So
Oh, yes.
that's sure. Oh, fun. That's a good one.
It's a good one. The prose edit is good. The poetic edit is great. That's my opinion. But both of them are really, really good. The prose edit is where I started, but the poetic edit is also really just like a very beautiful, prophetic type book. A lot of the prophecies about Ragnarok are included in it. Richard II is so good.
I haven't read that one actually. That's one I haven't read many of the history plays, and those are the ones I've read. I feel like those are my favorite. So I really need to get going on that. We'll see.
I think Richard II is all in verse. Like everything is poetry, so the whole play is really lyrical and beautiful, but I think it's apparently very hard to put on because of that. And so it's rarely done on stage anymore, which is a shame, but it is a really beautiful play. Should we talk about plays since they're on the brain?
Speaking of them, so I'm doing the trilogy of plays. I'm doing the Orestia. And this actually came up in my books to books TBR a couple months ago that I need to get to anyway, so this worked out very nicely. And I have read no parts of this. I know pretty much nothing about it, so I'm excited to give it a try. It's been a long time since I've honestly read any Greek or Roman plays, so this should be a good little reintroduction for me back into the world of Greek and Roman literature, because it's been about a year, maybe a year and a half since I did any of it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes.
The Orstay is, I think I've said everything is really good, but this is, I mean, this is a really long span of time, so it encompasses a whole bunch of different genres and different types of books. But generally, what has survived has been pretty great to me. What we discuss as the real classics has been pretty awesome, and I think the Oresteia is a real treat.
Yay, I'm so excited. Yeah, I've heard so many good things about it. And honestly, I hadn't heard of it and just picked it up a few months ago in a used bookstore. And I was like, that looks nice. So I'm glad that so far people have told me it is worth it. So
You'll have to vlog your experience.
yeah, I definitely will. I'll be vlogging the whole month. So, and it's probably actually going to be my first like solid read that I'm not like portioning out. So that will be good.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to try a Shakespeare. I am going to be basic, and I'm going to read The Tempest. I have never read The Tempest, and doing some research into it, apparently it's pretty hard to categorize The Tempest. I thought this was a comedy, but some people think it strays into tragedy, and some people actually want to give it its own genre and they want to call it a romance, which I kind of like that. So I have absolutely no clue about this. I know nothing. I think they're on an island. I think that's basically what I know about the Tempest. So I'm really excited about this, but it does seem like it's hit or miss for some people. So hopefully it's a hit for me, but I have struggled with the comedies in the past. So I'm feeling a little bit iffy on it, but I also think I'll read this straight through and not parse it out throughout the month the way that I'm doing other things. The plays do seem nice and short, but I have another option for a play. I was looking at my TBR. I noticed everything but the Pilgrim's Progress is Italian. And so I said, I need to go to another country during this readathon. And so I think I might try Moliere. I have never read any Moliere. So this should be a new, exciting thing. But I do think he's also quite comedic. And that just generally is a struggle for me. So hopefully this month I can get out of my comfort zone and start to try to enjoy comedies. But I don't know what it is. I have no clue why comedies don't work as well for me as tragedies. I guess because when you read a play, it's a very different experience to seeing it put on. And if you were seeing a comedy, I think that it would play better for me. Like, gosh, for $1 million, I couldn't tell you the name of this. Also, Shakespeare. It was made into a film with Kenneth Branagh.
Oh, Much Ado About Nothing?
Yes, Much Ado About Nothing. Did nothing for me when I read it, but I loved watching the film. So I think maybe that's my problem. So hopefully I can get into some comedies this month.
Yeah, that will be good. I agree. I feel like comedies you have to see like the body language and get the voice inflection to really get the humor right as well. I so far I've found that I have enjoyed reading the comedies, not as much as the tragedies, but I've enjoyed. In fact, Much Ado About Nothing I read a couple months ago, and I really liked that one. So, I mean, I had seen parts of the film, so I kind of had a little bit of background, which I think helped, but that one I really liked. The Tempest, I vaguely remember when I was younger, my friend was in like a private school and they were like studying it or doing it, I don't know, but she like showed it to me and I remember her telling me about it, but literally all I also remember about that whole thing was that it takes place on an island. so, so yeah, won't know anything about it, but it is one that has intrigued me just because of that background. And you know, I always like a good island Greek myth, so we'll see between like Circe, the Odyssey, and all those. Always a fan of that. So that should.
Hmm. When you think about it, islands do pop up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. You do.
The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is intense, David. And it's really like piecemealed out in some years or so. If you don't know, I'm talking about it like you've probably read it before. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle was written year by year during the Anglo-Saxon period in England. And so some years are really exciting and there was war and people were killing each other. And some years they're like, there was a famine. And you're left to fill in the blanks with it. So it's a really interesting thing, but I wish you luck in reading it straight through.
Absolutely. I've only read parts, so.
Yeah, it is Tom. Inferno is Tom's cue to come in. I'm glad you're here, Tom. The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster. I've not heard of this.
Me neither. I think I do remember someone commenting about it, but I don't remember much about what they said about it.
Oh, you have some company reading the Oresteia.
Good choice. Oh, another one I think up next too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I also love the three Theban plays.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Specifically, Antigone, I think, is probably my favorite of those.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really like any fantasy, Tori?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Sometimes you're into sometimes I see you reading fantasy and
Yeah.
sometimes I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You should try, I try to push this on everybody, Fireborn by Rosaria Munda.
I remember
Because,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, it's about dragons, but it's also like a world constructed basically like Plato's Republic. And so they read something that's very akin to the Aeneid, but one of the characters' names is Antigone. And it's very fitting.
Oh,
So I think that's a series that you might really like.
okay. I've had it on my TBR because of you raving about it. So I've had it on there, but I wasn't that. That probably sold it for me. I wasn't sure, but that probably got me. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of classical references in that.
Yeah.
I know Aesop's fables, it's like you don't think about them very often anymore. Some fairy tales really are still very prescient and like fairy tale collections people read a whole lot of. But yeah, you rarely hear very much about Aesop's fables.
I feel like you also just kind of forget when they were written, like
Yeah.
how old they are. So
Hmm. I don't know what you should add to that. Those are two really good options.
those are good. Um, I don't know. Maybe just see how you feel once you finish them.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to leave your mood open and
Mhm.
not be locked into your TBR. Oh, okay. The Tempest is wonderful. Maybe my favorite Shakespeare play. That's encouraging. I'm
Mhm.
glad. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. I'm encouraged now. Moliere, yes.
Mhm. Good. Thank you. Thank you for encouraging me to actually follow through with that pick.
There's a lot riding on this story. If you don't
No,
like it,
seriously, everybody's just waiting to hear my thoughts on the Orestia.
yeah, from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, my favorite entry so far was the year where it simply said, "This year was the hard winter." I mean, that sums it up. That's a lot of what the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is.
Mhm.
Oh, people are talking about The Betrothed in the chat. I have that on my TBR as well. I think that's in a 19th century Italian
Oh,
novel.
okay.
Okay. I think I was pausing for a second there.
Oh,
Sorry, my Wi-Fi must be going in and out a bit.
no worries. Okay, so last prompt, right? We're on the last one, right?
Yep.
The female author. Okay, so I've said this so many times on my channel that most people probably know what I'm reading for this. But in case you don't, I'm reading The Lays of Marie de France all the way through. I've read a couple of them before and really, really love them. So I'm excited to actually read all of them in this little collection. And this one's really nice. I don't know if anybody's curious about good editions of it, but this one actually has notes at the end of each of the lays to explain more in depth that specific lay. They're pretty short, but like it's really nice. So I'm excited to get into it. And then of course at the beginning it has a nice long introduction. So those who want to read this has been a good addition so far for me.
Oh, cool. I'll try and find that and link that down below for folks if that's something that you're interested in getting. I'm going to be reading the Letters of St. Catherine of Siena. So she was one of the few that I had on my shelf as I was shopping my shelves, and I thought she would be a pretty interesting choice. And there are enough letters that I think I'll read a couple a day to get through it all in a month. So I think it'll be interesting. Might be a little dense at times because it's going to, I think, get into some theology.
Yeah, for sure. I know I've only recently, I think, I can't remember, but I have recently learned about her just a little bit, and I find her really fascinating. So that will be a good one, I think.
I first learned and watched The Tempest before I ever read it. I'll have to look up a good production of it. During all this time, there's been a lot of uploaded Shakespearean productions on YouTube. So maybe I can find something. Did you have anything that you wanted to put on your TBR, but you had to cut because you were getting into too many books?
Oh, yes. I really wanted to read another play by Euripides. Like, we've talked about Medea and how much I love it, but I literally have read nothing else by him. And so I was really wanting to do that. And I mean, it's short, so maybe by the end of the month I'll have time to do it. But I had to kind of put it on the back burner a little bit more because I don't have time, probably. But it's one that I definitely would like to. I think someone mentioned in one of my videos that the Trojan Woman was a really good one. So I think that might
Mhm.
be where I go if I do end up finding a chance to get to that, but we'll see.
I've got the Lays of Marie de France also. I'm sorry, Marie de France. I'm trying not to sound as Southern as I actually am. I also got a collection of ancient Greek epigrams. Included in the collections are the writings of a female author. That's interesting. I've been under the impression for the longest time that Sappho was essentially what we had from ancient Greece. So that's really interesting. I'll have to look that up. The Book of Marjorie Kemp. I've wanted to get to that for a long time, but I also worried about the amount of kind of philosophical theology in it because I think she's um, a medieval religious thinker.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that, so that's interesting.
Oh, okay. Maybe this will be the one I pick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to get an endorsement for something to know somebody else might be reading Moliere. I'm a little bit intimidated by him, and I can't really say why, but I've heard the name Moliere for so many years now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my big dream was to read City of God by St. Augustine this month. And I took a look at everything that I have to do. And then I really wanted to get to shorter things. I never prioritize shorter books on my TBR because I often think, what's the point of reading something so short if I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time in it? And so I said, I'm going to put City of God aside. It's like a 1,000 page
Gosh.
beast that I think I would have to take notes on.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to cut that.
I'm thinking, I'm like, maybe in the future there's a couple of really long ones that I was like, oh, I'd love to get to that one, but I'm like, there's just there was no way. Maybe another month, another year, I can try it, but there's so much literature from this time, and I feel like it ranges from like so short to so long. So anyway, so many different options. But okay. Um, then we also talked about discussing like what we're doing outside of the prompts. If anybody has any movies you're planning to watch. I know I actually have a book that's not from this time period that actually takes place in it, though, that I've been dying to read for years. And it got picked. I don't know if anybody does Rick McDonnell's BookTube spin, but it got picked for that for me, so I got to get to it, and it's huge. So I won't finish it this month, but it's The Sun and Splendor by Sharon Capenman. So I'm so excited. It's kind of be my like break from the classic literature book that I can read, a few chapters of here and there and try to get through it. But I'm really excited about that.
Well, you know my feelings on The Sun and Splendor. It's so good. It is so good. I'm thinking about reading maybe an Arthurian retelling that's also not from the time period. But last month I read Lancelot. I keep misremembering because he has two books, Camelot and Lancelot. But I read Lancelot by Giles Christian, which was incredible and is one of the best Arthurian legend retellings I've read in a very long time. And so I automatically ordered his second book, which is Camelot. And so I'm hoping to read that. It's more dark age set. It's more realistic than being set in the more fictional version of Camelot. So I think that will fit in well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have to add that to my Goodreads right now because that
Yeah,
sounds fabulous.
you would like it. You would like it. It's
Okay.
very, for those of you who are here who know my love of Bernard Cornwell and The Last Kingdom, it's very Bernard Cornwell. It's just
Okay.
really, really good. And you care about everybody. That's the mark of a great book to me is when you really, really get attached to the characters. Whatever plays I read, I hope to watch different theater or film versions of it. That's a good idea.
That is a good idea. I think, especially because plays, especially written during this time, they don't usually have a lot of stage directions or anything like that. So you really have to watch it to get the full extent of the power of the piece, I think. So that's a good idea. Actually, as far as watching things goes, since we're on the Arthurian legend theme right now, I'm actually planning on watching Camelot, the musical, this month with a friend of mine. I've never seen it, and I've really wanted to, and she says it's super good. So we were actually gonna watch it this last month, but I was like, let's wait till June because it's just so perfect for Ancientsathon. So we should, in the next couple of weeks, do that, which I'm really excited about.
That'll be interesting. I've never seen that either.
Oh,
So you'll
really?
also have to vlog that experience.
Yes, I will for sure.
Well, I wish A24's Sir Gawain and the Green Knight was coming out this month. It doesn't come out until July. That's going to have to be our after the readathon event. So apparently, we all want to go see Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. But I haven't thought of anything I really wanted to watch yet. I thought about watching Shakespeare in Love,
Oh.
which I know it's not accurate. And in some ways, it's really not great. And I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow, who's in it, but I do appreciate the vibes.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of looking for an English Renaissance vibe this month.
That would be fun. I know I've actually thought about having maybe a day where I like cook food that's themed too and like do all this stuff. I don't know if I'll actually do that. Don't hold me to that.
That's
But
a really cool
I
idea.
considered something like that. So we'll see if that ends up happening, but
That's a really cool idea.
that would be fun. Oh, thank you, Maria. I'm very excited. I love it. I love musicals. So like King Arthur plus a musical equals probably fabulous, but we'll see how it goes.
Part of why I love the Theban plays is from watching a particularly wonderful version of the play here on YouTube. I have never seen a Theban plays put on. I've never seen a Greek play put on, actually. So when I'm thinking about it, though, I don't know that I've ever actually seen a Shakespeare play put on full way through.
Really?
So yeah, so maybe this is the month to change that.
Yes.
And
I know. Actually, in July, I'll be seeing a couple of Shakespeare plays. My state has a Shakespeare festival that's just a few hours away from me, and I have a friend who's going to it with me. We're seeing Richard III, which is why I made sure that I would be able to go because they were going to do it last year and then COVID happened. So glad they decided to do it this year. And then we're also seeing the Comedy of Errors was the other one, which I don't know anything about. So we'll see.
me either.
But
Oh, that's exciting.
should be fun.
I would love to see Richard III put on.
I seriously was gonna cry when I found out they were doing it. I was so excited. I was like, yes, wanted to see it so bad. And then when they didn't do it, I was so worried they were just not gonna do it, or it would be years before they decide to do it again. But luckily, it's not. So
Making sure I'm caught up with the chat. Okay, I think I am.
great.
Well, do you have any fun videos planned at all, Tori?
I do have some. I'm still playing around. I will be vlogging pretty much the whole month. I'll have 2 vlogs that I'll do for sure. And then I also have one about Arthurian legends that will hopefully go up next week. So be looking out for that. Those of you who have been loving Sir Gawain and the Green Knight today, you can definitely check that out. I'll talk about that one. So yes, that's a couple. Hi, Connor.
Connor, shouldn't you be in bed?
Oh my goodness.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you stayed up. I just can't believe.
Oh my gosh, what time is it there? Like 4 in the morning?
No, it can't be.
2? I
Maybe
can't.
2?
Maybe 2 in the morning?
Connor, you're staying up late to talk about ancient lit. Oh, it's only 1:47.
Okay. Okay. Uh,
Well, I think we're gonna have a great time. I think this is gonna be a really fun readathon, and hopefully we can all finish our TBRs. That's a big dream.
yes, hopefully. In fact, do you have any plans for the rest of the night on what you're going to be working on or?
I'm now thinking about starting Pilgrim's Progress because I feel like I should start on that early
Mhm.
so that I don't wait to the end of the month and get overwhelmed by it. But I do feel like I'm going to need to take some notes on that one, to tab that one up so that I can remember certain things. Because I know a lot of people really, really love Pilgrim's Progress, and it's one of their favorites of all time. Somebody in the chat said they've read it 5 times. So that's really exciting. Makes me think at least we've got one winner that we know for sure.
Mhm. That will be good. In fact, yeah, I actually tonight I just got through the first little apology and I have a few in order to keep up with my plans for my how I'm spreading it out across the month. I have a couple more pages, so I'll probably read that. And then I was thinking about starting the Lays of Marie de France, but the first one on there is kind of a long one. And part of me also wants to start the Orestia, so we'll see. I have started, like I mentioned, I have started Norse mythology on audio just while I was driving around today. But yeah, so I think that's my plans for tonight. And we'll see how they go.
Are you going to read delays throughout the month, or are you going to try to read that straight through?
So I'm reading them throughout the month, although I think there's like exactly 15 of them. So it will just be like 15 days. I'm just going to read one a day, basically. So it will probably be done by halfway through the month. But that's kind of my plan with how I'm going to go about those.
Well, that sounds awesome. Hopefully, you loved Oresteia after everyone has hyped it up for you. You'll go into it with such sky high expectations.
Seriously.
Well, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, if anybody has any other comments or questions they wanted to run through really quick, but I think that will about do it.
Connor's always up late.
Okay, fair enough.
Connor's reading Paradise Lost this month,
Yes.
which was also on my TBR. And I said, I just can't do this.
Too much. That one's a long one too, so.
This is off topic, but did anyone else dislike the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo as much as I did? I actually love the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
I haven't read that one. It's been one that I've been curious about and wanted to, but I'm just not one to reach for that kind of literature unless I'm really in the mood for it. So I just haven't been, but it is one that I've had on my radar. So
It's a really quick read too, which
yeah.
is always nice.
Yeah.
Connor starting Paradise Lost at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That is dedication, my friend.
It is.
Oh, the Cameron. I've only read a few stories from it, but I really liked them. I really like that one, actually.
I have never read the Decameron.
Really? But
So,
I think you've mentioned you don't necessarily love like the framework of like the Canterbury Tales either, so which it has a similar thing to that. So
yeah, I've been wary of it because of that.
Mhm.
And I don't want to read it knowing that there is an aspect to it that I don't like.
Mhm.
So I feel there might be stories that I really like.
Yeah, there was at least one that I remember like laughing out loud to. I can't even remember what it was called, but
Oh, wow.
it was really good.
The Cameron is popular.
Hmm. Halfway through. Good job. That's kind of a chunky one too. So.
It really is.
Mhm.
Well, guys, thanks for coming and hanging out with us on our introductory Ancientsathon live show. So we will have another one at the end of the month over on Tori's channel, and we will hopefully discuss our experience with Pilgrim's Progress. Hopefully, we all love it.
Yes, hopefully it's a positive chat, not negative, but that should be really good.
Me too, Zoe. I also struggle with short stories. And so I think that's my issue with the Canterbury Tales, and I fear it would be my issue with the Decameron.
Mhm.
But thanks again, y'all. Hopefully, we all can demolish our TBRs this month and really enjoy reading some classics that we don't normally talk about or that we don't get to very often. So hopefully, if this is a time period or a large swath of time that has been really intimidating to you, you can find something that'll be a really good entry point and alleviate that fear for you.
Yes, it's supposed to be just a really good opportunity. So I hope as many of you, even if you can just read one thing, that's a success because it is a swath of time that has a lot of kind of intimidating literature. So I think it will be really good and exciting to be able to kind of either get more into it if maybe you've started and haven't read much in however long, like me, or you read a lot of it, or you're brand new to it. So.
That's right. Hopefully, it can be a good gateway back into it for a lot of people. because I know there are some things I haven't revisited since I was in school. So hopefully everyone really enjoys their TBRs this month, and we can get through some of these big classics on our TBR. But thanks again for joining us tonight, y'all. We will talk to you again at the end of the month on Tori's channel.
Have a good night.
Bye. Thanks.